All right, we are live. Sweet. All right, guys. So thanks for tuning into. It's not really an episode. It's just going to be a conversation between myself and my man Forrest, who is back in Germany at the moment. So Forrest's story is super powerful. Hence why I've got him on this call, because I know that a lot of people are going to be empowered by his journey and his story over the last 4 years. But we first met, I think it was around 3 years ago in Germany. And I was fortunate enough to, we had an awesome connection straight away, and you're one of the most genuine people who literally, it's like you got blinkers on when you're having a conversation with you. You don't focus on anyone else. It's just like, I've never had an experience like that. So that was really cool. And then obviously, I got to learn more about yourself and your journey, which you were going through at that time on your weightless journey, to where you are now. And I think when I was there, I was fortunate enough to see you play some music as well, which, bro, I'm so glad it's released now. And if you haven't seen it, I'll be dropping it in the comments because it will just make your heart and eyes melt. It's good stuff.
Thanks, man.
But yeah, brother, if you could just start, I guess, by sharing sort of your story from how you got to a place where you were 4 years ago. I think, 90 pounds you've dropped since then?
Yeah, I was about 100 pounds total by the end of it. And then I've gone up and down learning how to change my body.
Yeah.
But it felt like about 1,000,000 pounds in my mind.
Let's talk about that. So I really I guess, if you could give us a quick recap on who you were as a person leading up to that point, and then what was the turning point, and we'll just sort of have a conversation around that as we go.
Cool. Well, get ready. Sit back, put your seatbelts on, because I'm about to go pretty fast, and we're going to take this conversation deep. Without beating around the bush, I wanted to kill myself. I was suicidal. I remember standing on a stage in Germany, playing for about 8,000 people, and it wasn't like a normal show. It was a really bizarre show. There were 8,000 people in our tent watching us play. And then they performed a 13-minute encore. And for those of the people out there who don't know what an encore is, it's where someone continues to when they ask you to play an extra song, and then they stayed along with that encore and pushed me to perform it for 13 minutes, which is absolutely bizarre. I've never had that happen in all my career. Not like that, at least,
Yes.
And it was an incredible, an incredibly spiritual experience. It was, I think, like, it felt like the room was weightless and everyone's heart was in the right place. It was the most calm I've ever felt and the most peaceful I'd ever felt. And for 13 minutes, they sang my song and would not let me stop singing it. Like, they would not. Like, if I took the foot off the gas, they pushed harder. And the craziest part about this, while all that was happening, all this love and this incredible moment, I was planning a suicide. And I don't know if that was part of the effect of why it felt so peaceful for once. But I'd literally come to terms on that stage with how I was going to take my life. And I was okay with it. And for the first time, I was actually really happy. And it was also the scariest part of my mind, having that much control over me. That was the breaking point. How I got to that breaking point, well, that's a different series of questions. Like a lot of people, I have had a series of events happen to me as a child that impacted me in ways that affected me as an adult. And I never realized just how much power those things had. And I also didn't have the tools or means to identify what they were and how to give it a name. So I grew up, not to get too far into my personal story, but just with a lot of early childhood trauma. Just a lot of abuse and just situations that weren't great. And then, my father went to prison, and my mom really wasn't fit to take care of us as kids. She was too young and had, 3 kids and didn't really have the education and the means to raise these children. And my father was violent and just not a really nice person. He's just a criminal. And that ended up leading to my mom not really being able to take care of me. And then I ended up being homeless, and then bouncing in and off the streets, trying to figure out who I was, and then eventually leading to the point where I found some refuge with my grandmother, my Nana. She kind of took me in and helped me out and gave me a little bit of a little bit of a footing and a foundation. And then from there, I ended up back on the streets and trying to figure out my life, and just back and forth between situations that weren't necessarily optimal for a younger person. But it was teaching me a lot. But I was also really angry. And as I became an adult, it was the anger that had really locked itself onto me. And I didn't realize it at the time, but anger was the most incredible defense mechanism I'd ever been able to come up with. In essence, I was kind of like the Hulk. For anyone who's seen the Marvel videos or know about the Hulk, I'm this nice guy and I have a really big heart and I really genuinely care about a lot of people, but I'm feeling fragile, vulnerable, and insecure and very unsafe. And I felt like this Hulk would come out and defend me and take care of me whenever situations were not kind of optimal or good. And at some point, it felt like that creature had taken over. And it was like always protecting me. So like you could come up and be like, hi, and I'd be like, why are you saying hi to me? Like it was so crazy. And for years that lasted. And I felt like I was losing myself more and more as time went on. And it became really scary. And to the point where it led up to those suicidal thoughts. What I later was able to identify as the problems after sitting with a couple professionals was that I was suffering from really severe social anxiety and really severe depression, and that I might have or be bipolar. Wow, what a revelation, like to be able to sit in a room with someone and say, hey, like these are some components to you that might be influencing the way that you're reacting. And once I had that in my scope, I was able to go, wow, that's really interesting to give those things a name, because then I can actually try and figure out what they mean and how to work with them. So to stay on that superhero analogy, I fast forward to now quickly, those things that affect me so intensely, anxieties and depression, those have become like the greatest tools in my arsenal, actually. Those are really powerful tools, and really magical components to who I am as a person. The anxiety is just my ability to figure out what the feeling is in a room, to understand people. It's a gift, really. It's scary when you don't know how it's being used internally, but when you do have that understanding, it goes, wow, like I'm not really good at being around people. Why should I? Of course, I didn't have that safety as a childhood, and of course I would have this. That's what's kept me alive. That's what makes me special, because other people don't have that, so they're not really feeling the way I feel in a room, and that's not their gift. So that's mine. And the depression, well, I feel so intensely that depression happens to be a side effect of that. I can go deep, deep, deep into a feeling. So those highs are really high and the lows are really low. But then I have this gift that I can write a song that feels really low and really high at the same time. And that resonates and connects with people from all around the world. Like, how lucky am I? Because if I didn't have those, I literally don't know what I would do. I don't know who I would be. So take it back. I was, I think, 29 years old, height of my life, like career was going awesome. I was in Canada. We got nominated for a Juno. To Australians, that's an ARIA, or to Americans, that's a Grammy. Like my life was so good. And people, when I finally came out and told people I was suicidal and like I was going through all this stuff, it was so funny. Most of the people came back with, yeah, but everything's great in your life. How is it that you feel like that? That was probably the sentence that came out the most. I was like, yeah, that's the funny thing about depression. Like, it doesn't matter how good, it doesn't really matter how good things are. When you feel something, you feel something. So I was 29, height of my stuff, and then I quit. I remember, like, I was so over everything, and I played that concert and I came off stage and I was like just so pumped. I'm like, it's great, like it's finally, I've cut this cord, like it's great, everything is great. And for the next few days, they were some of the best days of my life. Like, I lived so much once I knew that I didn't care anymore. And interestingly, before I went on that tour over to Germany, I had made a brand new friend in Canada, and we weighed the same, and we kind of had similar feelings, both of us not really knowing at the time. I hadn't yet figured out what I had. But he felt similar things. And I was like, wow. And we tried to figure out, like being mad scientists, like what was it that made him feel that way? And what was it that made me feel that way? But the only way we thought of doing that was identifying some of our similarities, because we were very different people. So here's this person sitting across from me, overweight, unhappy, feeling depressed, feeling anxious, and very different life. So it must not be the fact that I'm a musician. It must not, I don't know what it is. And ultimately, the one thing that we came and identified was our food and our lifestyle. It was the only real definitive connection that we had. And coincidentally enough, we were having this conversation over food. I believe it was like a fast food burger and like fries, and like a drink of sugar that's about this big, of course. And we realized that we were both doing that multiple times a day. So interestingly enough, we made like a pact to get healthy. And I then went on this tour and did not get healthy whatsoever, but he actually started. And so in the midst of, feeling the heaviness and like being in the way that I was, I decided that I was going to stick to him and this like kind of deal that we had made before I was going to take my life. And it was really weird how I was starting to play this game inside my head of like, kind of like anything, like I'm not going to drink for a month. I'll start on Monday. Okay, I'll start on the 1st. Okay, but I was kind of doing that with my own life. I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to take my own life, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to give this new friend 30 days of my life and my time. And, obviously I'm not going to get my life back because I've tried to diet and do stupid things like this for, hundreds of times in the past, and it's never worked. It's just cost me way too much money filling up a fridge of stuff that just went bad, and then I was just eating it at fast food anyway. But what happened was those first 30 days changed my life. We started to identify that there was a real serious correlation between mental health and processed food. That was the first kind of building block that happened. And I'm not going to bore you guys with too much of a story, but the thing is I can talk for hours. But I also met a guy who was 700 pounds at the time in a hospital being told that he will never get better. And I happened to he was a fan of mine, and I saw that he made a post on Facebook saying he was in the hospital, and I reached out being like, are you okay? And he's like, holy cow, like you're messaging me? I'm like, of course, like, I'm just a person. People sometimes they don't think that, but it's like, yeah. And I was like, can I come to the hospital and visit? Like, you need anything? And the guy's like, can you just bring me a CD? It's like,
yes.
He was like the sweetest guy in the world. And I'm like, cool. And I actually started documenting this 30-day journey with a camera. I was like, I have a camera. Can I bring it? And we'll just talk. And I got there, and here he is, and he's 700 pounds. And like, he wasn't able to get his heart checked in a machine. They were calling the zoo to see if they had an MRI machine big enough to check. Like, it was brutal. And he's sitting in a hospital bed that had to be brought down from a different city that's 3 hours away. And it stretches like 3 times the size of a normal bed. And he goes on to tell me a story that he doesn't know if he's going through congestive heart failure or not. And he's worried for his life. And I asked the doctor, I said, well, what can this guy do? Like, and the doctor literally looked me in the face, dude. And he's like, people like him don't get better. As he's sitting right here, he says that to me. And I lost my mind. I was like, you know what? Screw you. I'm going to help him get better. And I offered him, I said, hey, can I help you? I don't know anything about health and wellness. Like, obviously, like at the time, like I had a beard this big and a belly that was bigger. And I was like, but I will do everything I can to help you if you want to. And he's like, yeah, at this point, like he kind of has like nothing else in his life. So he's like, yeah, absolutely. And so we embarked on this crazy journey, which started my journey. So I didn't really have mentorship per se, but I had such a fixation and belief in other people that I was so determined to learn everything I could to figure out how to get better. And I failed the whole time, but I learned everything and then some that I could have never imagined would be possible. And it started with each stumbling, like failure, that opened up a brand new world. It was like it's like trying to open up the door that leads to the secret vault inside your soul, and you're opening up every wrong door. And not only are you opening them, but you're breaking them, and like you're like walking in on people in rooms. Like you are figuring out so many things about yourself. And it is unbelievable because each room presents a brand new version of yourself. So I remember reaching out to nutritionists to ask them if they could help me with this guy. And they were kind of dismissive in a way. Like they wanted to be part of it because I was like, we're filming it. We're going to turn it into a documentary. We're going to change the world. Big ideas, big dreams and aspirations. And they were like on board for that part. But then when they find out he's 700 pounds and actually like if they give the wrong advice and he dies, there's a liability. So people are like, no. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to kill myself anyway. So I don't care. Like I will be the liability. And I was willing to kind of like just present him options. I'm like, let's try this. Let's do this. Let's try this. Let's make this. Let's be a group. Let's hang out. Let's be friends. Let's just everything that evolved. So I learned everything. And then we started pulling people together. We found a friend of mine. His name's Big Ohms on Instagram. He is the most genuine, kind-hearted person and a really huge asset to my life and my heart. He came on board, and he's an incredible personal trainer and a bodybuilder from Calgary, Canada. And he came on board and tried to help this guy out with a little bit more of the physical aspects, seeing as how large he was, because I didn't really know anything about working out at the time. And together we spent the next year and a half to almost 2 years growing with each other. And this guy ended up losing, I think, close to 400 pounds. And like, it was crazy. And then we all lost the weight too, like, and then continued to keep the weight off. So long story short, that's where it started. And it doesn't end, because as I'm sure you're well aware, just because you start one thing, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily your lifelong version. I don't think people realize that, because as humans, we are creatures of progression, and our bodies are constantly fighting us and plateauing us. So to break through those plateaus, it's like your body shuts everything that you've just learned down, and you got to figure it out again. And it feels like that happens every couple months. So
I've never
that's
heard
kind of my
like that. That's gold.
Right. You're welcome.
So good. Yeah. Trademark.
That's right. That's it. But it's a bigger story, and it can go on and on and on. But these are versions of how I discovered it, and how I stay focused in it is my life. Like I know what looms on the other side. Like I just went on, not a tour, but I had a couple shows. I was in New York, I was in Los Angeles, and I was touring around America. And I didn't get to work out. I was so jam-packed. I actually, let me take that excuse off the table. I chose not to work out because I was so jam-packed, and I really wanted to sleep in instead of working out. And there's a huge trade-off. My mental health kind of went a little weird when I got there. It took a few days. Here I hadn't worked out, and I felt that creeping feeling come back in where I'm like, oh, I don't feel good about myself. Oh, maybe I'm not good enough. And then all those heavy feelings started swirling around. And that's a big thing. I don't want to confuse anybody out there who's watching this. My anxiety is always working. My depression, it's my best pal. It's just always hanging out. It's like that pal that doesn't leave your house and sleeps on your couch and doesn't do your dishes but eats all your fridge food. That guy, that's depression. But it's just a great pal. Helps you through the hard times, convinces you to do bad things. That's what it feels like, and it never goes away. I've just been able to control it and bring it down from always being like pinging at a 10 and bringing it to like a manageable 1 and 2 at its worst days, until I don't work out for too long. Or in the case of what just happened when I was traveling, we were also eating out a lot and dining with other people. And it wasn't that I was making bad food choices, but I could feel that I wasn't eating the way I would like to eat. And in turn, I felt that a bit of my control over my superpowers, as I call them, got a little out of control.
So I think a few of the things that was just incredible to listen to, and you covered so much in terms of like obviously what was going on for you, how you handled it, and what triggered it, and all that sort of stuff. And my intention for having you on here was that you know, like, because I know I've had, and you're probably the same, like I've had so many mates and people that I went to school with commit suicide, and, you know, mental health's running rampant, right? And it's my biggest passion is to help educate people, especially men, to tap into their side of vulnerability, you know, so we can open up and have conversations like what we're having right now, to understand that, you know, if you're going through some kind of depression or anxiety, it's like, it's okay to talk about it. Call it your superpowers, or, you know, whatever it is. But as soon as you can identify that and learn how to manage it and work with it, and not work against it, work with it, you know, you're the perfect example of how comfortable and enjoyable life can be with that. You know what I mean? And it's cool to hear how you've sort of done that. But, you know, for those people who are watching this and wanting to reach out, like when you initially, no, I know you came into contact with your buddy, who's probably one of your best mates.
Christoph?
Yeah, Christoph. That's just, is it Christoph?
Chris, the guy, the
Yeah.
German with the hat?
No way.
Yeah.
Is you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, my internet just cut out. Is Christoph?
Sorry. No, sorry. You're talking about my mate back home in
Yeah.
Canada, guy healthy. No, that's one. He is one of my best friends. I have Christoph.
Yeah,
I thought you were talking about Christoph.
I know Christoph.
Yeah, his name's Derek. His name's Derek.
Yeah, awesome. You know, so you had Derek to really, you know, you give 30 days of your time to reach out, and a lot of us in Australia, especially, you know, I know 4 years ago, before I learned to be able to talk about my feelings and stuff, I was just like talk about beers and stuff like that. So what was it for you that made you open up to someone who at the time was a complete stranger, apart from the fact that you guys were sipping on a soda and eating a burger or whatever it was, you know, you were consuming at that time? Like,
Yeah, I mean, for one, it was like looking in a mirror. I'm able to go in, like I said, into a room and kind of suss out how that room feels and the people in it quite quickly. Who's safe, who's not safe. That's just part of my survival instinct. And part of sitting across from Derek is, while observing him, it felt like I was really observing myself, because there's nothing I could like judge this guy and figure out who he was as a person, because he's essentially a similar. It's tough to say, man. I don't know. It's like, you know, when you meet a person that you just really care about deeply and you're trying to figure out why, it's not really much to answer. But maybe it was part that I really wanted a friend in my life, and I was actively putting that out into the world and universe. Like maybe I was seeking so desperately to have someone that I cared about. I don't, you know, get my circumstances as a child. I didn't really lead to a lot of strong relationships family wise. Like I have my nana, and that's my queen and king at the same time. Like she's everything. But everyone else is just kind of, is not a lot of presence. So sitting in front of this guy and connecting, and like it's just like a connection. Like, man, I was just so thirsty for that time. Cool. So yeah, anyway, I have a love and admiration for Derek. I think he's one of the most incredibly flawed and beautiful people in my life. I just really love the guy. He's one of those friends that you can call up and say, hey, life just went to shit. He's like, cool, let's talk about it. You know? So again, I think it's just part of like,
my internet.
just knowing that you're in a place and you want to change, or you're seeking something like that.
Yeah, man. I think from your story, man, like it doesn't matter. You know, you're hugely successful in your own right, and depression and anxiety doesn't just favor the, you know, the weak or the less fortunate, and so
No.
it can hit anyone. And um, you know, I've seen it happen to amazing people, and you know, people who aren't obviously striving for as much success or whatever you define it is, you know, not progressing. And one of the best things that you said, and it aligns with my passion of human performance and human progression, is like that if we're constantly not trying to be that little bit better every single day, it's like we're dying anyway. And it doesn't matter whether you put that to spirituality, training, nutrition, you know, any of that sort of stuff. If you're not constantly looking to improve your body, age is going to do its thing, and then your excuses are going to start creeping in. Just like, you know, the people who feel sad or, you know, link that to depression. It's like you get to a point where it's just like you don't feel like you're enough, and you know, it feels like, man, one of your posts was amazing. It feels like you got the weight of the world on your back, right?
Yeah.
And often when you're, you know, walking around in that state, a lot of people don't understand what it feels like, and they don't know how to treat or act you. So they're like, "Oh, just get out of it." You know, do that, but they do that with the best intentions, but they just don't really understand how that feels. Yeah, obviously. Sorry, I'll just hit record again. Sorry, guys, for the technical glitches that's going on, but
No,
yeah,
this is part of life. These
yeah,
glitches are great. Welcome to real life.
yeah.
This is what we're talking about. You have these glitches and it's okay.
Um,
Nothing is perfect. It's all an illusion.
exactly, especially my mustache.
That's an incredible illusion.
Yeah, it's hopefully, but you know, it aligns with what we're talking about right now: men's health, mental health. No, so going back to, you know, you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders, and often, you know, the people around you who may notice that something's up with you or something's different, the mood swings and stuff like that. So many people don't know how to handle it. You know, they don't understand what you're going through, so they can often, you know, smart ass remarks, or everything's meant with the best intentions. I get it, because I used to say the same to people who were close to me until I experienced it. It's just like, pull yourself out of it. Come on, mate. It's nothing. Like, you're doing this, but to the person, it's the biggest issue in the world. And, you know,
Yeah, it's the biggest thing they're going through in their lives right
yeah.
now. You know,
And
it's not to cut you off, but I wonder if people have ever thought about it. I think it's a sign of our times. It's like if your phone starts glitching, you're literally in the palm of your hand for the most part. People are holding something that has more technology in it than the first spaceship that went to the moon. So, like, people don't often think about that, but that's literally true. Um, if that glitches for about 2 seconds, like, we get frustrated. Look at us in this call. So the Wi-Fi drops, you're getting frustrated. Oh, why is this happening? Not now. This is a great conversation. No. But really, the challenge is a lot of us don't know how to handle those things. And then we, in turn, don't learn the skill set to handle things. I know I didn't. I struggle with it every day. Communication, I may sound great talking right now, but when I feel so intensely, that becomes very hard to communicate like this. Most of it's reactive and hyper emotional. Then the biggest thing has been having people in my life who understand that and allow me to run wild a little bit to then cool down and get at it, because then we could talk. They let me become the Hulk for 30 seconds and then I can chill out, and they go, now do you like how it felt to be the Hulk?
yeah.
Everything is broken. But we don't have the skill set, or I think that it's something that's missing, where we're not often proactive in the sense of, this doesn't work really well. How do we take a look at it? Simple problem solving. Instead, we all become frustrated. And that's a
Yeah.
big problem I see. So it's like, when your mind's not working or someone else's mind isn't working, why is it that we're so quick to jump? I understand that it's not really relative to people because they can't understand what it's like to be in their shoes, but it is really relative. If you don't know what it's like to understand what someone is at their worst, just try and think of you at your worst for a second. How would you like to be handled? Because that is literally someone's moment every day where they're at their worst. So instead of passing judgment, how can we pass that compassion as people? How do we extend that branch and say, hey, I get it. I get that I don't get it. I get that I don't understand anything that's happening inside of you, but I want you to know that here's a safe place. I'm here. I don't understand you. I don't understand depression. If you don't understand depression or anxiety or bipolar or any of the things that affect people, I mean, like the list goes on and on and on. If you don't understand it, that's fine. Just being a willing participant to be in someone's space if needed. That is what I think compassion and humanity is about. It's like you don't have to suffer like someone else does to support them. You don't have to go through what they're going through. So you don't have to be afraid of people when they're falling. But you can be supportive. You can be kind, and you can reach out, and you can watch them as they go through it and just lend yourself. Sometimes just being there. Sometimes letting someone know that you are there. A good example, I had a lot of people reach out to me when I came out and said, hey, I'm suicidal and I've been having these feelings. And I had a ton of people actually, and it was so wonderful. And they're all like, man, you can reach out anytime. Like, we are here for you. I had a lot of people like that. It was an incredible feeling, but they don't realize that it's great and it's a great feeling, but it's so unrealistic for me. Because when I get to that point, I'm not calling people. When I get to that point, I'm in a different world of expectations and going, if people cared about me, they would call in the next 3 minutes. If no one calls in the next 3 minutes, I'm useless. And I'll prove to myself that my life is shit and nobody should care about me. I'm already in that state. I'm not going to reach out and be like, hey guys, how you doing? I need to talk. I have trouble washing my face and brushing my teeth at that point. So those comments meant a lot because it's just support, and it's people offering what they think is the best way to support you. Though it's not for what I would need, it was still pretty magical and wonderful to the point that it lets me believe in people. I go, wow, they actually do care about me. And that becomes a tool in my arsenal when I get to that heaviness where I go, hey man, you don't have to have this weird expectation of yourself. It doesn't matter if nobody calls. Somebody not calling doesn't mean someone doesn't care about you. And I can start talking to myself. So again, to come back full circle, I think it's just a matter of letting people off the hook a little bit and realizing that we're fragile. Listen, the world is stacked against you. I said at the beginning of the conversation, 150 years ago, your biggest problem was trying to make it to the outhouse before your feet froze. So it's like life is like really complicated right now. You have technology that's crazy. It feels like every year the generation gap feels like a year now. It doesn't feel like 10 years or 20 years. It feels like the kids born in 2016 are already smarter than the kids born in 2015 and so on. And it feels like you can't keep up. I'm like, I'm going to have to pump gas for a living for as long as there's not automation and machines pumping other people's gas, because I don't feel like I can keep up with this 12-year-old kid who's like Albert Einstein. But it's like, you got to remember that the world is going so fast and everything is stress causing. Your drive to work causes you stress. Your money causes you stress. Your phone's causing you stress. Your relationships are causing you stress. The lack of relationships causes you stress. Your house, the places that you found to be safe cause you stress. What do you wear? Because if you go out, you'll be judged. That causes you stress. Cortisol being released in your body 24 hours a day. Life is like totally stacked against all of you. It's primed to set you up for failure. As soon as you realize that, like, let yourself off the hook. You're doing just fine. If you would have put someone 100 years ago under these conditions, they would have failed by like week 1. And you are thriving. You are an anomaly. You are absolutely incredible. You've learned how to use this technology. You've learned how to drive a car. Like, if you saw a monkey driving a car through traffic, you'd be like, wow, I can't believe that monkey stopped in traffic and not smashing into all those cars. Be proud of yourself. It might not seem so impressive, but it is pretty amazing. So it's like, take it easy on yourself. You're doing a great job. And maybe people aren't telling you enough because we're all trying to prove on Instagram that our job's already great. But
Yeah.
all the in between the photos, that's the part that counts. What makes you you, even if you're nuts, even if no one likes you, even if you have no friends, you're awesome. You're the most incredible thing ever to happen in your life. You're the center of the universe. You are literally your own God. And I don't mean that in a religious sense. I just mean you take care of you. You control. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control you. So it's just chill out on yourself. Give yourself a break. Take a breath of air. Come up from the water. Don't let it hang out up by your nose so long. Just try and enjoy being human for a second. I know it's easier said because it's, like, look at me, I'm just being all prophetic on a call, but it's like, I'm fighting every day to stay alive, just like the rest of everybody. Just because my job is different and I sing for people, like, I'm a monkey. I get on stage and I perform for the kingdom. I'm not the kingdom. I'm just the jester. Like, and I know that. And I love being the jester. It makes me feel empowered and important. So sometimes we just all want to feel a little bit more visible than we did the day before. So if anyone can take anything from this conversation, for however many people see it, whether it's one or whether it's a million, you are so important and you're so valuable. You and all your craziness, you and all your chaos, you are amazing. And maybe someone hasn't told you recently, but that's how I feel about you. Yeah.
So good, man.
I'm
just mesmerized. But yeah, I think, I had a whole list of, not questions, but sort of ways I was going to lead the conversation. But, you being amazing. Like, you just do that so well, your story and sharing and being so vulnerable and taking us through that whole roller coaster of how it all went about, how you were saved, or you weren't saved, but you were provided the opportunity to, save yourself. Ultimately, no one's going to save us. We're going to save ourselves. But, and then, looking at two of the hardest things and two of the biggest excuses in the modern day society, which I see, especially in cities, is like people neglect their health because they're chasing the dollar, or they're, trying to impress someone at work, or trying to build that Instagram. And it's like, how often do you hear, it's like people like, I don't feel good about myself. It's like, well, do you exercise or do you eat well? It's like, I don't have time. If you don't have time, like, make it. It's a priority, because your story from when you were at the United States and you didn't have the opportunity, or you chose not to. There's not the opportunity. We all got it. You chose not to exercise, and the impact on your mental health. And I know for myself, whenever I don't exercise, that's why it's a movement. It doesn't have to be throwing weights around, but movement, whether it's stretching or, is a part of my day. It's like brushing my teeth, because I know what the impact can be mentally for me.
Just take a 10-minute meditation break. That'll change your life. If you can't get to a gym because you're not here at that point. I didn't go to the gym at first to get healthy. I just started with food. I mean, that's control. You can literally decide what you're putting in your mouth. That's it. But taking a 10-minute meditation, there's apps like Calm and Headspace. Those really help. And it's not like this hoo-ha, like it's you sit down and you have a voice in a set of headphones that say, okay, breathe in and breathe out. This is what it should feel like. Think of your head, and that really helps quiet it down. It's so cool that you're talking about time and how that works. I developed a philosophy called DAT, and I turned it into like a principle that I haven't really told anybody until now. I'm like my close friends and a few people I work with. I'm a musician, but I also take on a few people a year and try and help them transform their lives. And I had to come up with an idea of what it was I was really trying to capture. And I came up with DAT, life coaching and fitness. And it's 3 fundamental principles that I feel act as like 3 gears. And if one of them sticks, the other 2 don't move. It's really simple. You need all three to work in unison to create success. So my whole big spiel is this. You already heard me say that you are infinitely successful. You are. The fact that you exist, nuts. So what I think is our biggest challenge as people is trying to take the curtain of failure that we feel, and remove it from how beautiful the skyline of you really is. You want people to see you. You want to be visible. Let's remove that curtain of doubt and failure that you're going through. How do we do that? It starts like this. D stands for discipline. If you don't have the discipline, you're already missing a component. That's probably one. And they're all equal, but I'm really privy and I really feel, I feel really adamant about discipline, because it's a choice. It's hard, but uncomfortable doesn't mean bad. Uncomfortable usually means that there'll be something great that comes out of it, but humans don't want that. Humans are geared mentally, scientifically, you are geared to fail when it comes to comfort. You want comfort. You will do the thing that's comfortable 99% of the time. Discipline requires that you at times to make the decision to say, hey, I'm going to be feeling comfortable.
And so, I'll jump in, but the biggest thing, my discipline is, I believe, one of my best things. And the reason, the biggest thing that changed discipline for me was if I'm, a disciplined enough monkey to go to work every day and work for someone else, you got to look at, okay, I'm spending 8 hours of my day going to do something, and a lot of the time I don't enjoy it. And that's taking away 8 hours of my day that I could spend with my girlfriend or doing, it's every decision that comes through discipline, you're sacrificing other stuff. So you want to make
Absolutely.
sure, if the decision to eat a pizza instead of whatever, it's like, it may taste good now and feel good for the next hour, but what happens after that?
That's just it.
It's like,
so you lose something, and you essentially don't take down that cloak of failure. You feel like a failure. The second part of DAT is attention to detail. It's something that I see a lot of people miss. And I'll explain why these three components work and how it can affect anything that you're doing in life. And then the third is time management. So I love the fact that you touched on time. Here's how it works. If I am going to a gym, let's start off with missing the component that I love the most, discipline. I am not disciplined to go to the gym. Simple, I'm not going to the gym. That's done. So those gears don't turn. If you can imagine that, you need these gears to turn to unlock your success. I locked discipline by not going. Game over. I failed already. It's not going, or not that I failed, but I'm not allowing myself to be visibly successful. Okay, let's throw discipline back into the cog. Let's put it back into the wheel. Now it's working again. I am disciplined. I will go. But I have no attention to detail. So I'm disciplined. I'll show up. I've managed my time. I've made time to show up. But I am missing attention to detail. That means that the time invested doesn't carry any weight, mind the pun. It's not useful. So if you're disciplined to show up to work and you've made time to show up to work, but you didn't pay attention to the details and you make no money at work, that's not called a good day. That's called wasting those hours of your life that you'll never get back doing something that didn't serve or was a benefit to you, all because you lack the attention to detail. I oftentimes like to use this analogy for the gym because I find it for gym goers and people alike, it makes a lot of sense. If you're disciplined to show up to the gym, you've managed your time, but you do all the exercises wrong, you're not going to see the results that you're looking for. Your body's not going to grow or change in the way that you want. So if you're someone who's overweight and you're disciplined to go to the gym, I see this a lot where overweight people, man, are incredible to me, and how their desire and willingness to show up day in and day out to do something to get better, but are lacking the attention to detail, so they don't get to the results they're looking for, but they try so hard. Sometimes I find people at the beginning are the most incredible because they literally work so much harder than you don't need to work that hard, actually. It's not that, this is a marathon. It's not like it's going to take time. So just chill out. Let's get into it. But we all want to change immediately. So we're willing to do pretty extreme stuff. So nevertheless, so if your attention to detail isn't working at the gym, you don't see the results that you want. You go do cardio for 3 minutes. That will never change your life. Maybe you need to do it longer. Maybe you need to lift weights, or maybe you got to pick the right thing. So we can see how that works. Let's add discipline and attention to detail back into our wheel. So you're disciplined to go, and you are willing and know how to do all those exercises perfectly, or anything for that matter. You know how to do whatever it is perfectly, but you didn't manage your time. You have 3 minutes to do it. You're screwed. That's why, to me, those are the three fundamental principles or components to this gear system in order for people to really see how successful you are. Let's put all them back together. I'm disciplined to show up for myself every day. The gym, food, everything. I've paid attention to the details, meaning I actually know how much food to the gram I can have in a day if I want to gain weight, lose weight, stay the same way. I can control all of that. It's all in my control. It's like a bank account, and I know exactly how much savings I have and how much I can spend. And I'm willing to manage my time to invest in myself, to make sure that I can do all of that. Because what good is the discipline and knowledge if you're not willing to put the time in to use it? So I manage my time. And when I don't, like in cases like when I was just on tour, I didn't manage my time efficiently, and therefore my components all didn't work. I was disciplined, I had the desire, and I know all the attention to detail. I know how to do everything pretty much the best that I can do it to get to the next level. I just didn't manage the time. So, excuse me, that's how I see an easy way to understand what it is you're trying to do. And you can apply this philosophy to anything you're doing in your life. I call it just doing that. Am I doing that? And if you can say, yeah, I've been disciplined, I'm here, and I know everything I need to do, and I've managed my time, I've got the time to do it. If it's not working, you need to go back and check. It likely is one of those things that aren't working for you. Will probably end up being attention to detail. If you're disciplined showing up and you've made the time, but you're not seeing the results, it usually is in the finer things, in those details that you're like, oh, yeah, I was spending a couple bucks more than I had. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
You know? So that really helped me when I put those together and really kind of sussed out what it was that I felt led me to success and what was the driving force behind it. And that was the philosophy I came up with, because I realized that those were the things that I was doing that really helped me get to the next level of my fitness and life and health. I went from fat to six pack, and it's crazy. And that's a whole other conversation for people out there, because don't think that success will give you what you want. It's a really interesting thing that you need to be realistic with. There's something called perceptual and visual adaptation. I looked in the mirror with a six pack and didn't know that I was smaller or more fit than when I was fat. It never stops. I can lose a gram more of fat. I can make $1 more today. At some point, it's about drawing a line in the sand and just realizing what it is your goal is and making it a real goal. So don't say, I want to be skinny. That's not right, in my opinion. I would like to be fit and healthy, and then define what those things are. I would like to be in good health, where a doctor can give me a clear bill of health that I'm healthy. I'd like my cholesterol to be normal and all my enzymes in my body to be perfect. And then I would like to have abs, or I would like to be more muscular, or I would like to be able to take my shirt off and feel confident for the first time. And picking what those look like and identifying them. For me, what helped me is I wanted to be 10% body fat. So I worked towards that goal. When I hit 10%, I didn't feel any better than what I was at 15. I just felt really good that I actually committed to something for the first time and made the goal. And then once I made that goal, I went, oh, okay, where do I go next? Well, I think I want to put on a little muscle and try that now. So it's just that process. But like we spoke about earlier, it's progression, and progression is part of reinventing yourself every time. Just because you've made it doesn't mean that you don't get to reinvent yourself. If you won the lottery today, you given up on life because you finally made it, you're successful. If you got your dream job today, is that it? Is it curtains? We call it quits because you got it? No, your dream job is just a platform for you to get to the next level that you're going to create in your head. So keep that in mind, because at every level, you're not going to feel like you made it. I feel like that every day. Most days I don't know how the hell I'm going to write another song. Sometimes I wake up going, how does a song get written? It's like I forget everything in my sleep. And slowly but surely I get back in it, pick up my guitar or play the keyboard, and like, oh, okay, there it is. Like, I can do this. And then my goal becomes, I want to make another piece of art, an extension of myself. So it's like my Jenga of life, and eventually it's going to topple, like you said. At some point it's going to end anyway. So just enjoy putting those blocks in place. Enjoy this trip, because that's what it is. You spend your whole time worrying about going home on the vacation. You're not going to enjoy the vacation. This is a vacation. Enjoy every day.
Man, words of wisdom.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm taking up all the space now.
No, man.
When we started this phone call, you're like, yeah, 15 minutes. We don't need much time.
No, but man, I think we're getting exactly what the intention of this was, and it's really to just get a message out there to people that, people are going through stuff every single day, and it can be bad and severe and all that sort of stuff, but there's always someone that cares. And even if you get to the point where you were at, I can't say I've ever experienced it, but you can come back from that. You can turn your life around, and if you want to, and obviously you sought help, and you committed to the change. You started learning about ways to make it easier for your mind, not just constantly battling against it. So choosing better food and more exercise, and probably even changing your friendship group and hanging around people who inspired you to be better and do more. And it's just all these little, to me, like gems that you've just delivered through this chat that, you know, if people watching this can just take away one thing, like just one thing to inspire them or work on to want to be better or want to get out of a rut they may be in or whatever it is you're going through, you know, that's what my intention is for this call, you know, and everything that you've shared, I'm going to be watching this again over and over because it's so and I really appreciate you giving, you know, Aaron a bit of your time now. I know you're busy about to go hit German.
Hey, you know what? Somebody gave me time, and that was the biggest gift. It's the one thing that you can't get back. It's the most valuable asset you have. Most of us sell our time for less than what it takes to buy it back. Your hourly wage, if I said to you, okay, I'd like to buy an hour of your life, you're not going to sell it to me for what you make at your job. So this is an investment. And I appreciate you saying thank you. And I appreciate the how grateful you are to have my time. And I'm equally grateful to have yours. I think you're an incredible champion in what you're doing. I love watching your videos. I love seeing how you interact with your girlfriend and your family and your friends. Like, I love seeing how much you actually care and put out there. That's what you do every day. You exude that I'm trying something. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying my best. I love that. So this is an investment. This is a very selfish call because you've just allowed me the opportunity to talk about myself and allowed me to feel loved and accepted and appreciated. So this is a very selfish. My first intention is it's a selfish investment because it gives me something completely and entirely, it fills my heart up, and I'm going to go out into the world today and radiate that and give it back to the world. So, and the second thing is it's selfless because I think this information can really, and I'm sure you do too, that's why you do this with people. This information can change someone's life. I know it changed mine. I know it's changed yours. This information that we carry, all of us, is an awesome piece to share with every single person because look, it's a rat race and it is so confusing. I don't know the answers, and I'm not going to sit here and sell them to you for $39.99 a month. Like, it's like this is how life works. This is what it feels like, and this is an open source conversation. And the thing is, you can spend a bit of, I'm not saying money's bad. I think money is fine. I think if you want up close and personal with someone who can give you a lot of their attention, pay for them to help you out with your goals. Otherwise, this type of stuff, listen to it. And if this helps motivate the spark that lights that determination up inside of your body and helps fire that discipline, if it helps fire you up to pay attention, if it helps fire you up to manage your time better, great. Because these are the things that helped source my life out, and I'm sure they've helped source yours. So at the end of the day, it's a privilege and an honor to share an opportunity to communicate with another person halfway around the world about stuff that we're all eager and passionate about. Between the Instagram posts and our high-flying lifestyles and the big jobs and big money and this girl and that guy, and this is the shit that really matters. Because I've seen millionaires look at themselves in despair and not want their lives to work either. And I've seen poor and broke and people at the bottom of the rung happy and smiling. It's like this kicks the shit out of all of us at some point. So it's like we are all in the same pot. I don't care who you are and what you've done. You are not invincible to feeling. We're all going to feel it. So this is a talk that we can share amongst us all. It doesn't matter who you are, color, ethnicity, gender, sexual, it doesn't matter. This is what it's like to be human. This is what it's like to be vulnerable. And it is scary as all hell, but it's wonderful. I have no clue how to figure it all out, but what I can tell you is I'm active, and I hope this conversation leads to someone who can beat it and add to it and help make this stronger and come back and say, hey, I saw this, and have you ever thought of this? Blow my mind. I'm desperate for people to be included in this conversation because you know what? If you have a trick or a tip that helps you with your anxiety, I want to know it. And if you have a way that you see your depression in a way that's beautiful, tell me because I'm always trying to find ways to make my thing beautiful. These are my gifts, and they're scars and they're beautiful and I love them and they're mine. And I know other people have them too. So it's kind of like to kind of close off how I feel. It's much like when, you know, I'm a superhero guy. I've always loved the thoughts of superheroes, but I always found it's kind of like X-Men where like every single person, like when Professor X goes into, I think it's called Cerebral, and he sees it. There's these mutants all around the world. I identified with that. I'm like, I'm a mutant. I have this like genetic twist in my brain that works differently than some people. And I felt so empowered. I was like, yeah, like, and the more I see that there are people like me who have special gifts and talents, I get so excited. I'm like, yeah, we're not alone. It's when people walk around trying to be perfect and presenting themselves as that, I get kind of scared. And I'm like, that's where I feel most vulnerable. So tell me you're crazy. Tell me you're a freak. Tell me you're nuts. Tell me you have no clue who you are inside your body. Tell me you're a young person not sure of your sexual identity. Tell me you're an old person who's not sure you live life right. Tell me you're depressed like crazy. Tell me you're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's an open place, and I love you so much. It's like bring up. Katie Lang is a really famous Canadian artist. I remember at the Junos, I was with her. I met her. I was with her, but I was watching her get up, and she was getting like a lifetime achievement thing. And she got up, and she's part of the gay community, and she felt, I think, oppressed for a long time and wasn't able to kind of just be herself in fear of backlash and repercussion. And she stood up on the stage in an arena full of people, and I loved this. So to quote Katie Lang, she just got up and said, "Let your freak flag fly." And I loved that. It's never left my mind. It's like, it's okay to be a freak and embrace it. It's what makes you awesome. So yeah, let your freak flag fly.
You are the man. And this recording is going to impact a lot of people, your story, which is exactly the reason why I wanted to share it with my network. Because I still remember when we were I can't even remember where the gig was, and you did that video
in
for
Berlin.
me. Berlin. Yeah, I still got it on my phone.
Love that picture.
For the mental health, you did a little spiel as well, and obviously we're doing November and stuff as well, and it's always what I'm working towards and wanting to educate my community about is just how we can do. Obviously, two passions is nutrition and exercise, and the main one being how to use that and direct that to help people with their mental well-being. And your story, man, your weight loss journey and what you've been through is the perfect educational source, I believe, and for people to hear. So
I appreciate that. Thank you.